Welcome to the Perfect Blooming podcast with my guest, Chris, who is a trainer or coach, speaker, toastmaster, leader,
And
who
friend.
else? A friend.
Don't forget
Um,
friend, Alexis. That one's important.
true. Um, Me and Chris haven't met in person yet, but we know each other a lot more online. Um, Takeaway, Chris, let everyone knows about you first.
Thanks so much, Alexis. It's great to be here with you on the Butterfly Blooming podcast. I love the fact that you're doing this. One of the things that really drew me to you and to what you're doing with this podcast was the fact that you're looking at who people really are and accepting people for themselves. That's something that was really a struggle for me when I was young. While I was born female and I identify as female, I was really atypical. When I grew up, girls liked to clean, they liked to be shy, they liked to be demure, or at least they should be. They wanted to play with dolls and do feminine things. I didn't. I wanted to learn to drive the tractor. And while there were some traditionally female things that I enjoyed, like cooking and needlework, there were a lot of things that didn't fit me. And it made it, especially in a religious background where I came from, very difficult to fit in. I spent a lot of time feeling wrong because I wasn't like people expected me to be. They had a clear picture of who I was supposed to be, and I didn't fit that box. I've since learned, of course, that most people don't fit boxes very well. But at the time, it was hard to feel like I was in that place. I think most people are insecure and feel like they're looking for common ground, for common footing with others. The fact that there were some standout differences with me made it hard for me to feel that. And that was something that really compromised the way I felt about myself. It compromised my self esteem. It certainly affected my confidence. And of course, in that traditional mindset of the 70s of little girls aren't leaders, they're bossy, it meant that I spent a lot of time learning that I should sit down and shut up instead of stand up and speak up. That's a lesson that set me up very effectively for some difficult times in my life.
Hmm. Since you're a speaker and a toastmaster, let's talk about that a bit. I know Toastmaster is one of the best, one of the good programs to learn how to speak in public, especially on podcasts, also on public events. So tell me more about Toastmaster.
I came to Toastmasters through fear. You'll remember I mentioned that I grew up without a lot of confidence, and that confidence translated into what I thought was a really paralyzing fear of standing up in front of people and talking. Eventually, in my career in sales, that started to become a problem. A lot of what I did was on the phone, but one day a client called up and threatened me, as I say. She said, Chris, we're going to have a media day where all the brand reps are going to come to New Haven and all the magazine reps can come and present to them. In my brain, I was going, oh my God, kill me now. Out loud, I said, gee, Whitney, that sounds great. How many brand reps are there? 35, she said. I was horrified. And that's what led me to Toastmasters. I had checked it out 5 years earlier, knowing that this was a problem. I found a club, it was near me, it was at a time that worked, and then I chickened out without even going. But 5 years later, when I had this client opportunity, we'll call it nicely, I finally went. I barely made it through that first meeting. It was it was terrifying. It was terrifying to know that somebody might expect me to stand up and speak and to feel really profoundly inadequate. And yet when I stopped and listened to the people, I wasn't. They weren't perfect. And I could tell they weren't perfect. And nobody minded that they weren't perfect. And then they came to the part I now consider most key about Toastmasters, the evaluation portion of the meeting. And the chair stands up and he says, "We're going to move to the evaluation portion of the meeting." And I'm sitting there thinking, can I sink into this floor? Can I disappear right into it? Because in my personal history, I associated evaluation with what I call the velvet sledgehammer. Let me beat you over the head and tell you why it's good for you. That wasn't something I wanted to see or hear or be part of. And then I heard it. And in my opinion, there are so many amazing things about Toastmasters. I could talk all day about them. Evaluation is one of the greatest aspects there. The reason is that we all perceive things in our own unique way. We all look at what we do and what we say, and we perceive it through the lens of our personal experience. But my experience isn't the same as yours. Your challenges and struggles have been different from mine. Your paradigms are different from mine. And because of that, the way I say something and the way you hear it may not be the same. Through evaluation, there's a positive way to understand how people hear what you say, to see what comes across effectively and in the way that conveys what's important to you, and to adjust it, all without feeling beat up. That was the best. That was truly the best part. That was 6.5 years ago. And I'm not sure I could imagine the person I would be without that, because Toastmasters has given me the opportunity to stand up and speak out. It's given me the ability to talk about things that I've struggled with and the lessons I've learned so that I can share them with others. It's what's given me the ability to develop those bossy little girl skills into what was really leadership all along. But what I never knew and never trusted myself in those things. The biggest thing Toastmasters has given me is confidence. And the greatest lesson it's taught me has been that I wasn't really afraid of talking in front of people. I was afraid no one wanted to hear what I was saying.
That's good. I like that. Do you know a lot of people in Toastmaster by chance?
I meet more and more all the time. I'm
Hey,
currently serving as the program quality director in District 60, which encompasses Toronto and the areas to the east. And Toastmasters in Ontario is undergoing some change. So I'm running for district director in what will be a new district, which will include basically the areas starting at the Toronto airport and running due north and due east. If you look at a map and find the Toronto airport, draw a line straight up, draw a line straight out to the right. Everything in that big patch is going to be the new district. And so I'm getting to know more people in parts of that I didn't know before. I've had the privilege of getting to know Toastmasters from all over the world. There are 357,000 Toastmasters worldwide. And many of those, Alexis, are in BC where you are, including some past international presidents. It's an absolute delight to get to know some of these people and to understand that even someone like one of my own mentors, who's a past international president from 2003, 2004, are still really down to earth people. They can take advice, they can give advice, they don't freak out when they're wrong, they don't freak out if you don't listen to them, and they're still really normal, approachable people, even though they've been someone who held a very high title. It's refreshing.
Like I know one person who went to, I think, the international level.
Yes.
The challenge is Stefano Casatino.
Okay.
I think he won Canada or was Russian first, then he went to Canada title. I don't think he won. Maybe he did win Canada, but he was one of my trainers too. Was speaking events I learned from. And another person you might know is Terry Holland.
I don't think either of those names ring a bell, but there are certainly a few 100,000 Toastmasters I haven't yet had the privilege to meet. Getting to the World Championship of Public Speaking, though, is quite an achievement for any Toastmaster, that's for sure.
He kind of showed BC a lot and grew his chance by teaching everyone what it's going to be like. So in the future ones could do it. I haven't done Toastmaster. I only did Project 101 or a group session with someone else who had Toastmaster training. And I also have a voice coach or speaking coach.
I think it's something you might really enjoy, but you need to make a choice that's right for you. Most groups are meeting online, so you could join a group right now anywhere in the world that suits you.
Right. What is what your other things you have title of a coach and leader? Tell us about those.
Well, that all comes down to speaking to in a funny kind of way. One of the things that I've observed is that a lot of people who come to Canada struggle with language. Part of that is that English is a really difficult language. I can't tell you how many people I know who only speak English and they still don't do a very good job. But when someone comes to Canada from another country and they're accustomed to speaking one or more other languages, learning English is hard. Even if they've had a chance to learn English in their native country, chances are fair that it's by someone who's not a native English speaker. And there's a lot of little things that really differentiate non-English speakers. One of the downsides we have here in North America is that, like most people, we assume that people who are like us are the best, the smartest, the strongest, the most capable, the most experienced. That means that if someone who might be really well qualified for a job or really informed or really well educated applies for a position, but their language doesn't effectively portray their experience, they may turn that interviewer off immediately just because, oh, this person doesn't even speak English. They just get dismissed. Part of what I do is I help people who have skills and are applying for higher level jobs to work on their presentation skills, to work on their speaking skills, and to make sure that they're conveying the personality, the relationship skills, the communication and leadership skills, the experience that they already have effectively in a way that the interviewer can understand. Because if you're speaking a language someone's already comfortable with, your chances of being heard are greatly magnified. For young children, what I work with is typically kids from households where English isn't a primary language. And I work with those children to help them become fluent and to sound like they've been speaking English their whole lives. Because, again, if they're always around people who aren't speaking English, that can be a more difficult thing to develop. It's a lot of fun.
I know we've been working on fixing some letters for me in the past, and I think podcast too, right? You do your own podcast.
I'm doing a video series right now. I am looking at doing some podcasts as well. Part of those are related to my campaign, but I was also interviewed for a podcast by a local Toastmasters club near here.
Nice. What is your dreams and your goals in the future?
You know, Alexis, when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be the prime minister. It wasn't that I particularly wanted to live in Ottawa. It's cold there. And it wasn't particularly that I wanted to be on TV all the time. I still don't desperately want that. But what I saw there was that if you have power, you have the ability to affect change. And ultimately, that's what's important to me. That's my hope and my dream. I want to be a creator, a bringer, a facilitator of change. I want to help make a difference. That's the thing that most inspires me. If I can bring a smile to someone's face, if I can help someone succeed, if I have the ability to help them understand that the abusive relationship that they're struggling to get out of, the difficult situation, the accident that they're healing from, whatever the case might be, their struggle is something that doesn't have to define them. If I can give them some inspiration, some encouragement, a hand up, not a hand out, that's something that personally feeds me. But it's also something that I believe benefits others. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing in my world, is really to make a difference for the world around me. There's so much scope for that.
Not bad. Um, so what other things I was going to ask you is, since I know you and me are good friends, what would you do if you were in my shoes? That I
Uh,
wouldn't. That
mhm.
what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
Do you mean personally? Do you mean as a pageant contestant? Do you mean as a podcaster?
Or anything?
I think you've shown incredible courage. One of the things that first drew me to you when we met online, Alexis, was the fact that you had the courage to look and say, I need my world to reflect who I am. And you took the steps that were right for you as a person to reflect that. And the only person who can know what those steps are is you. Nobody else can tell you what you feel or how to define yourself. At the end of the day, the only person whose opinion really matters is yours. And I love and respect the fact that you took those steps and that you've stood by them proudly. You're using the
What?
fact that you're involved in pageants to have a voice for things that are important. It's easy to see that this isn't for you just, oh, look at me, look at how beautiful I can make myself, look at the great gowns that I can wear, or something like that. The fact that there's more to it really comes through. And that's something that I wasn't well informed on in the pageant world previously. That's not something that's been a part of my personal history. But you use that as a stepping stone to make a difference.
Yeah, it's time for a change. I'm always saying. Also, too, pageants are now not what skinny, short, brown hair or what the color of the hair they wanted. Now is anyone can go in, black, white,
Mhm.
who knows, brown, different shapes. It could be like 300 pounds, and you still could do it. Um, and right now too is there are female pageants, there's a male pageants, there are transgender pageants,
Mhm.
there's Asian, there are Filipino ones, there's tons of them. And so I'm excited for that. The changes are coming, and there are still more changes after all these. What is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
What is my biggest
Fail.
failure? Oh geez. I feel like that's a multiple choice question that has so many possible answers. But then if I think about it, if I learned something, is it really a failure, or was it simply a way that I learned that didn't work. Somebody said to, I believe it was Edison at one point, when he was working to invent the electric light bulb, well, you've had 10,000 ways that you've failed 10,000 times. And he answered, no, I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. And I think that's the important thing to look at. I've had a failed marriage that was abusive. But the plus of that was that I came out not only with 3 beautiful children who are now adults, but also that I gained a great deal of empathy and understanding for how difficult it is to be in a situation like that, and for the mental and psychological impacts of abuse. That's now put me in a position where I sit on the board of directors of Women's Resources, which is a nonprofit organization here in Ontario that helps abused women and their children. I'm able to offer a very personal viewpoint on the board because I understand why some of these women don't leave. I understand why they go back. I understand why they're afraid to take steps forward. Without my experience, I wouldn't have that understanding. I've been homeless, and that's given me, again, an entirely different understanding for how close most people are to that wire, how little it takes to take someone from making ends meet to a situation where they're no longer making ends meet. And I think in the last year, with the pandemic going on, there's been a lot of people who've been in that category where they were just making it before, and they're now not quite making it. And that situation for some may have already tipped over. For others, it could be close. It's something I could not have identified with effectively, or perhaps encouraged someone to keep going or help them find solutions if I hadn't experienced it myself. I had a severe injury 3.5 years ago and spent about 3.5 months not walking. Again, it gave me a unique empathy for people who have physical challenges that, beyond the disadvantage of being female in a male-dominated society, I didn't grow up with. Not walking for 3.5 months, not driving for 3.5 months, drastically changed my life. It's incredibly difficult to do something as simple as carrying a coffee cup from the kitchen to a chair when you can't walk. And just little things like that really affected my way to see and connect with the world around me. I think they've made me a better person, and I think they've given me valuable lessons. So while they're definitely areas of struggle, I don't know if I'd call them failures.
But it's been like, I know what you mean, like 3 months off, like 8 night, but you walking. And like for me, being off for 11 weeks for surgery.
Yes.
And learn how to not do workout, not to do work, not to do this, and kind of housebound much. It was hard. I was bored. I'm not the type of person who would love to sit around. I want to go. But it is amazing how we change our lives and learn from it. What are the best resources that have helped you along your way right now?
The people around me, first and foremost. One of the best lines I learned at a conference I was at a few years ago is something I consistently apply in my life today. You are the sum of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. That time could be physical, or at this point in life, it could be online. But those 5 people are what shape you and what influence you. Now, the presenter at the time challenged us to make sure that those 5 people weren't homogenous, that they weren't all, I'm a middle-aged white woman, that they weren't all other middle-aged white women. Make them diverse. Mix up the sexes, mix up the sexual orientations or the other identifications, mix up the nationalities or the religions. Because if all of those people are just like you limit your own ability to grow and to change. And it's inspired me to make sure that I surround myself with diverse people. And I would stretch that to say I'm probably the sum of the 25 people with whom I spend the most time, but I spend an awful lot of online time with people. And I'm privileged to be influenced by some exceptional men and women and children of various nationalities, various ethnicities, various orientations. I learn different things and gain different experiences from each one of them. Far and above, my greatest resource is people.
Nice. So, what is how? When do you encourage someone to join Toastmaster or reach you for some helping in English and other stuff?
I would love to encourage anyone along the way who would benefit from my help. That help might be connecting them with a Toastmasters club nearby, and I think it's a program that would benefit anyone. One of the things that I say in presentations sometimes is unless you're a hermit living under a rock, you deal with communication, leadership, and mentorship every single day. Why would you not look to improve those skills? There's my Toastmasters pitch. On a personal level, though, helping people is what makes me happy. And so if there is someone who would like to just talk about where to find solutions, if there's someone who is struggling in a bad relationship and doesn't know how to get out, know that I didn't fully believe I was being abused until I'd already had my abuser removed from the home. I wasn't convinced until after that. It's okay if you're not sure. It's okay to ask questions. And it's always okay to ask for help. And if I can be the person who gives you that help or points you in the direction of someone who's a better fit, I am delighted to do that. I would be glad to hear from or offer support or direction to anyone at any time. And if I'm not the person who can help you, at this point, I'm blessed to know an awful lot of people. I'd love to try and point you to someone who can.
I know we've been doing it, Lily, on our part. Well, once I'm having questions on, um, how or where can our listeners connect with you online?
Well, they're welcome to find me through your Facebook profile, Alexis. Alexis and I are friends on Facebook, and my name is just as it appears here, Kris Nelson. You're also welcome to email me. My email is krisnelson.tm, that's for Toastmaster, at gmail.com. Or if you message Alexis, she's well capable of reaching me and will gladly pass on your information as well. Please don't hesitate and understand that if you ask a personal question or something that you may not want publicly shared, I'm pretty good at being discreet and private. And if you've got a personal question you want to ask, I'm happy to address that as well. If you ask a question I really don't want to answer, I promise I'll tell you I really don't want to answer it, and it's okay.
I agree with you her totally 100%. Since we in COVID, we're all in restrictions or lockdown. I know Ontario been very locked down.
Tell me.
And lightly. Ours in BC are restricted, but is infinity. So it's kind of, we don't have a timeline now when our restrictions get off. I know Ontario, they're working on yours right now. But where would you travel if you had the money and time, and after COVID, and who would you bring with you, or what?
Oh. I don't know. There's so much of the world I haven't seen. I've seen a great deal of North America. I haven't seen a whole lot beyond that. And I'd love the opportunity to explore Europe, to wander through parts of Asia, to go to Australia, to see Africa, South America, Central America. I haven't been to those places. And given limitless time and limitless finances, I might just pack up all by myself and go and wander the world and explore. I can find toastmasters everywhere. I can find people everywhere. And good people always exist. Sometimes I just have to look a little harder to find them. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Same. I would done Australia. I've been to Mexico and a couple states, couple provinces in Ontario or Canada, like Ontario, Quebec, and or Alberta, but I want to travel more, but very restricted.
Yes.
I would love to go back to Mexico.
Mexico sounds lovely. I have a couple of friends from there, and from what they tell me, it's absolutely beautiful.
The places I loved is like Mexico is one place is called Baja California. Went there for a retreat, and it's totally different than from Canada and to them. You see pellets at
Mhm.
tables or chairs, dirt floors, cattle, any animal, freedom. Um, but their crime in there is a police. You have to be careful with the police.
Yeah.
What they're believe in, but it's like amazing how our money could go far in Mexico right now. I'm like, I was shocked how much I could bring 400 Kenyan. That'd be 400 or 4,000 pesos when I went 2 years ago. I'm like, wow, I could buy lots of stuff from them. And I kind of did, bought a lot of stuff. I love their water that we can't bring here or we don't have here. It was a perfect drinking water. I love it there. But I can't wait to go back in a couple of years. Especially bringing my puppy back to Mexico again.
I think that would be great. I'd very much like that.
Yeah. It's a weird how we take granted how we live here in Canada than from other areas in the country.
Yes.
Uh, since it's Valentine's Day, you want to talk about something about Valentine's?
We could. I am on my own, so there's nothing brilliantly exciting about Valentine's Day for me, but I did have two highlights today. I'll tell you about those. I
Go for it.
teach a little boy who is Chinese. He's 5. And so, as part of our lesson this morning, we built a background for me for my Zoom account because that's where I teach him. And he's gotten fairly good with some of the on screen tools. And so, he drew me a background of red hearts all over a black background. He's got my initials in a heart and his initials in a different heart and little arrows going back and forth because apparently I'm his Valentine. And I thought that was pretty special. And a friend of mine who I just got to know a week or two ago just sent me a really uplifting email today that made me feel good. Little things can make a really big difference. Never underestimate the power of what a few gentle words can do for someone.
True. For my Valentine is I'm single like you, but I've been in chit chatting with someone from Africa,
Excellent.
trying to be safe, not discuss too much info. I want to see if he's being honest, but he always wants to come down here and treat me real nice. So I'm like, okay, you come down, you have to do this, like all the quarantine laws. So
You crack that whip, girl.
like trying to make sure he knows that, hey, this is being serious. If you want to be with me, you gotta be like we'll learn the rules of Canada. So I'm like, yeah, you want me to sponsor you? You gotta show it. But I'm like amazed with that. And then with me being the pageant, today was one of the little events that kind of shocked me. Was called Galatine. So the Valentine's, but it's all pageant sisters. There was like 8 of us all online. Since I'm in the West Coast, it was more earlier than them. So I'm in 8 o'clock. There's some from 9 o'clock or Central Time, and then a lot of them are from Eastern. And I was like, okay, I'm the earliest one here. Like, and then one of the pageant sisters, the youngest girl, I had her on my podcast.
Mhm.
Her mom asked for my photo with a background of Valentine's. So yesterday or 2 days ago, I kind of did it right after work. So white pants, my baker's outfit, pants, my sweater from my pageant, wear my sash. I'm like looking at the picture. I'm like, okay, that's not a good picture, but I don't care. So she gave me a poster last night and told me to post it today, and I did. It was 10 of us, no, 14 of us in hearts photos.
Oh, that's nice.
And it was surprising to me because I'm like, wow, how amazing. So
It's
that
nice to
was
have such love out there, isn't it?
true. And then also I joined a pageant, so I kind of, after this, I have to go back to Staples and do my application form because it wasn't very wrinkly. Say, so I'm having fun. I'm great. Um, since it's Valentine's Day, since if no one knows, I'm an author. Secret Hearts Rising. It is an amazing book. That's Valentine's theme in there because it's heart, and so I'm like, whew, Valentine's. Yeah, but like I'm enjoying talking with you on emails and Messenger a lot because we've been working on fixing some letters, and hopefully I'll be on your video or podcast in the future too. But I'm having a blast in life. Um, do you have any other questions you want to tell, or any info you want to tell everyone?
I think we've covered most of it. I would say, though, if I can leave one message with people, and whether you're a pageant contestant or somebody like me who considers themselves fairly ordinary and doesn't get involved with these things, no matter who you are, understand that who you are is already okay. You're already terrific. You're already perfect. You don't need to fit someone else's mold or someone else's box because that's something you have the ability and the inspiration to create for yourself. Just be you, whoever that is. I'm good with it. I hope you are too.
Yeah, because everyone is different. Everyone's totally different. There's no one exactly the same, and I agree with you. If anyone else would love to reach her, you can message me like she'd say earlier, and I think I'm done. I have no more questions. But it's amazing to have you, Kris, on my podcast. Um, you're an amazing person, and I can't wait to learn more about you in the future. Maybe join Toastmaster and get you to tell me more. But Toastmaster is like you say, it does more than help you speak in public. It also builds up your confidence, self-esteem, and it builds helps you other things and out in the public.
It definitely does. I can't think of a bad result from joining Toastmasters for anyone. My only regret is that I didn't do this sooner.
And there's tons of Toastmaster across the world, right?
All
Not
around
just
the world.
not just in Canada, and not doesn't matter where you are right now. There are Toastmasters online for the COVID safety, or you can. I think somebody could meet in person. Depends on where you are.
Most
Um,
parts of the world are meeting online at the moment. And one of the neat things is that I actually belong to a club where we have members from a variety of parts of the world. We have members from India, from Russia, from different parts of the United States. I believe there's a member from Africa. There's several from Europe. It's really interesting to just gain the different perspective of those people from around the world.
yeah. And thank you, Chris, so much today, and thank you everyone else watching the podcast. If anyone wanted to watch this podcast again, it's on my Facebook or Chris's right now, and it also will be on YouTube under Butterfly Blooming. Have a great Valentine's Day, and enjoy your rest of your day.